that just undresses them as, nope, we're not a tech company. We're going backwards into the 80s. It's a troll move, guys. This is silly. They're trying to trap us. This can't be. This cannot be.
If you're not getting educated about local and national real estate news, market conditions, economic data, or industry trends, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole here with Lisa Chinatti and Byron Lazine, and we've got jobs report data. We've got an MLS book is coming out. I thought we live in the world of tech, but apparently a book is now the way to innovate. We're going to talk about that at the end, thanks to the latest Compass CCP initiative to keep that moving forward, or their position to move forward at least. And we've also got this housing podcast from the New York Times that has some really interesting things we're going to talk about here, as well as some inventory data. And what do you guys, I have a question. What do you guys have planned for this weekend? Because I have a great plan later today, because we got this amazing BAM workshop coming up, but I want to warn everyone about something they may not be realizing. What do you guys got going on later today? And then I'll share what I'm doing.
I'm betting on the 5-horse American Promise tomorrow, along with some other bets going on for the Kentucky Derby. Is one of my favorite days of the year. I don't know if it's a sport, horse racing, but I consider it my favorite sports day of the year. You got so much going on. You got NBA playoffs, you got boxing, you got Kentucky Derby, you've got tequila, you've got cigars, you've got summer coming. It's already summer here.
Are you going to wear a hat?
I don't wear hats. I don't do any of that, but I do bet on the horses every year. And Kentucky Derby, watch out for the 30-1 number 5 American Promise. Great name, great trainer, great blood. This horse has got it all. It's a true blood.
Derby weekend. I'm a big fan of the, grilling up some steaks, tequila or bourbon. I'm a big, we drink bourbon. My cousin's from Kentucky. We'll be doing that on Saturday. Lisa, what do you got going on? Because I want to share, I have a cautionary tale for everyone I want to share here leading up to our Boston workshop.
I'm making my calls.
Yeah, I love it. I'll be making calls tomorrow too. So I'm right there with you, Lisa. So I've got to go get a real ID today. If you have not done this, right? The enforcement date's in 5 days. I got to go wait.
If you have not done this, you're probably 18 years old, because
I haven't done it
like the rest of it. You haven't done it either?
No, a lot of people
I have a passport. So I think the stat was only 56% of U.S. citizens have actually completed it.
Yeah, so that's barely a majority. I had to go get a birth certificate a couple weeks ago because I couldn't find that. I've got to bring proof of residency, a license, and I'm going to go wait in line. I'm going to let everyone know how long it takes today, because I'm committed to this Boston workshop, you two. This is going to be bananas, and I'm not taking the train or driving. And, we've got a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about. We do this every week, 3 times a week, where we talk about how we're scaling, what's working with recruiting, what's working with taking listings, conversion techniques. Lisa, you're going to open up your office to everyone. What's that like? Because Lisa's got this operation. It's incredible. I'm really excited to talk about this here. So what are you going to show people when they come up?
Yeah, well, so the first day we've got a small intimate room together so that we can all kind of chat and have some really kind of open dialogues about all the things related to scaling. And then the next day, I've got each of my departments kind of putting together a little block of time to be able to connect with everybody. So whether it's inside sales on the buy side or inside sales on the sell side, our sales managers for agent accountability, our head of operations who can walk people through really the implementation of EOS within the business, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think it'll be kind of fun and fascinating, because it's different, right? And it's always fun to see how people do things differently, and to kind of envision what you can build and what you don't want to build. Like, that's the other side of it. Mm-hmm. I learn a lot about what I don't want by looking at what people have.
I'll definitely be there with you, Lisa, obviously, because I have freedom to migrate throughout. I have freedom of travel throughout our country, whether Tom's going to be there or not, but you can be there. We'll drop the link down below if you're interested in it. It's I think it's bamworkshop.live, but we'll just put the link down below if you're interested in coming. Lisa's operations second to none. So Lisa and I will walk you guys through it. Tom, we'll see about him.
I'm the best bet out there. If you were betting on the Kentucky Derby, I'm 1-to-1 odds. It's even money. So I'll be there. I'm committed.
This almost sounds like maybe Friday, like part of this could be some live dialing with like an actual contest to see
yes,
like who can book the most appointments. Bring your laptops, boys.
It'll be me
I'm down
versus
for that.
Tom. And so if Tom isn't able to get into Massachusetts, it's an automatic forfeit.
I don't forfeit, pal.
You know
if
what
you're
I
not first,
just
you're last.
realized?
So just remember that.
I'm flying to New York on Tuesday for a Zillow mastermind, and I am bringing my ops person and one of my sales managers. I better go make sure they all have real IDs or they're not flying either.
Wow, I thought everybody just I know it was like years ago they kept threatening the real ID thing. And so when I got my license, I'm like, just give me the real ID now. Why would I want the fake ID? I had fake IDs when I was 17, guys. I don't need a fake ID now.
Go in
Give me the
person
real
for
ID.
that.
Yeah.
I've just been able to renew online and whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway, job support.
So we got the jobs report. Let's talk about this. And
talking about fake. Go ahead.
I think it's a great intro here, Byron. So U.S. payroll growth, 177,000 in April, defying expectations. Non-farm payrolls increased a seasonally adjusted 177K for the month, slightly below the 185, but above the Dow Jones estimate of 133,000, and unemployment stayed at 4.2%. So, these jobs numbers, the 10 years going up already. This is a big driver for interest rates, seeing these jobs reports come in. And I mean, you said fake. I mean, I just wonder how many they're going to take away from this report in 6 months from now, Byron. I think that's what the trend has been. And the stock market futures rose. And so did the treasury yield. So we're probably going to see rates go up a little bit today. What do you think about this, Byron? You're the fake news captain here.
Well, I say fake
Not
because
really.
we've got so used to job numbers being, the last 24 months, 2023, 2024, just being manipulated by government hiring. It's interesting. The GDP numbers came out earlier this week, and, our economy didn't grow. We went into the negatives for the first quarter. This is the first number that can get revised to. I get it. But it was supposed to grow at a 0.4 clip, and it actually went down into the negatives, I think 0.3%. So, GDP's down. Why? I said it all year last year, whether it be on the Hot Sheet or here on Knowledge Brokers podcast. If you pull government hiring out of our economy, then you're not going to have GDP growth. So we had 2.4% GDP growth in quarter four. We go negative in quarter one. Obviously, new administration as of January 20th. Everybody's picking apart the first 100 days of the new administration. And this is certainly a stain on the new administration. But the new administration has refused to continue at the level of government hiring that we saw the last couple of years. And Tom, I'll just give you 2024, government and government related sectors percent of total employment, it was 81%.
Ooh.
It peaked up in 2024. I mean, historically, you're rolling around 20 to 30% in a given time. After 2020, that number had gone down. So there's a little bit of recovery, but I mean, you can look at a chart on this and it goes through the roof, 2023, 2024 on government hiring. And so, if these numbers are, legit, this is a really strong signal for U.S. small businesses. I know one of the things, they had a Oval Office meeting with Trump's cabinet, and they were going around talking about all their wins. And one of their wins was, some type of record. I'm just telling you what they said. I'm not validating this. Was some type of record on small business loans. Well, if there is a lot of small business loans going on over the last 60, 90 days, small businesses are, still the biggest driver typically of this monthly job creation from the private sector. So anyways, this is something that isn't good news for rates. I'll tell you that. You already saw the 10-year today. It's Friday morning. We record these on Friday mornings. The 10-year goes up. So expect the 30-year to be, up a tick going into the weekend. So your final reading on the week, it's going to be up. We were kind of moving sideways on the 30-year all week, about 6.8. So a little bit over 6 3/4, but not over 7, which is good. We've got a high 6 handle, relatively speaking, on Mortgage News Daily for the week. But yesterday we actually saw unemployment go up over expected. It was about 241,000 for the week. And so that's 1 week. You need 2, 3, 4 weeks of a trend. You need a 4-week moving average to get up over 250,000. You have a 4-week moving average of 225,000. So yesterday, when you see that news where you get a little bit of you got a little bit of a decrease on the 10-year yesterday. Well, that's been erased. And so this is kind of what we're living through right now is, one day you get one reading, the next day you get another one that erases it. And so unemployment's at 4.2%. That was expected rather, that the unemployment rate would stay there. And Jerome Powell is going to come out next week when the FOMC has their meeting, and he's going to say the job market is strong. What he's going to say about the economy in relation to the GDP number will be interesting. But he's going to point to a strong labor market. They're going to do nothing. CME Group says they're going to do nothing. So they're going to hold the federal funds rate firm.
I think the things that were interesting to me that I always kind of look at, one of the marks is, and I think I feel it. Are you either of you guys hiring right now? Do you have positions to fill in your company?
I'm hiring virtual assistants because I think it's the smarter play. I've learned over the years of like over hiring W-2s. I'm not saying don't take a risk, but I de-risk myself when I add virtual assistants. And so like I had an interview going on with Summit VA who we use, and we had 3 VAs that we interviewed. We only needed one. Loved 2 of them. I said to Caroline, let's hire them both. Okay, like when you find a great virtual assistant, there's so much less risk than going W-2. You put it on your Amex. There's so many reasons why it's it's a good move. So I am growing and hiring. We loaded up a virtual assistant. We added a virtual assistant rather on the BAM side. We just loaded up on the team side with a couple new ones. So yeah. And by the way, there is an in-house W-2 position that if I could find the right person, I'd fill that too. So I am hiring.
Okay. So it's interesting. I am too. And a staff position, but then also agents. And so one of the things that I've noticed over the past 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, we've had an uptick of applicants looking to enter the real estate industry, which was kind of interesting because it had been at a lull for a while. And this week it was really a noticeable drive up. And the report today kind of noticed that the number of people out of work for more than 6 months so long-term unemployment rose by 179,000. So despite the fact that layoffs are low, it's becoming harder to find a job, which is interesting, obviously. Go ahead.
I agree with you. It's interesting if it were true. There's 7.1 million job openings. So, this is going to offend somebody listening to the pod right now, but you do have people on unemployment working the system. Okay. Like, listen,
no doubt.
Very true. Very true.
My dad retired from a nuclear power plant a number of years ago. Okay. And, he worked nuke power plants, a nuclear mechanic for his whole career. And so what happens when these guys retire, they get asked to come back as consultants, and not consultants, the wrong word. They get asked to come back and like work the outages, kind of, I guess, from a consultative perspective, because they've got new people coming up. These guys have done it 30, 40 years. They know the secrets of the plant. They know what's going on. And when you have an outage and you're refueling nuclear rods, you need to have people that have some experience. So they bring them back for these 4, 6, 8 week windows, give them more money than they were making when they were an employee and whatever. And so because you work, say, 8 weeks on this outage, technically these guys are eligible for unemployment after. Okay. You picked up an 8-week job. And so my dad's up in Connecticut. Last time I was up there, I'm with him. We're having a cigar and I'm listening to this conversation he's having with one of his old time buddies who retired. And the guy's like, hey, are you going to hit him for unemployment after? And I'm looking over at my dad. I'm like, hit them for unemployment? You mean hit my tax dollars for unemployment? So listen, like my dad's like, well, no, you gotta, he's like, if you do that every single week, you got to show that you're applying for jobs. And then the guy on the other end of the phone is like, yeah, it's easy, man. It's like, I'll show you what to do. You just send them crap. Okay. So there's there's 7 million job openings in this country. Okay. If you want to get a job, there's opportunities with the job openings, to your point. And so, but you're right, Lisa. In the last week, we did see the long-term number tick up. And that's the one number I think that it was. I'm not worried about a tick up 1 week of new unemployment.
Correct.
It's how long are people staying on there? I get it.
Yeah. And I think to your point, there are 7 million job openings, but I think we have to look at where is our labor force educated versus where are the openings that exist, right? And I think we are starting to see it's just a broader societal issue, some cracks with where we're educating our young people into jobs that don't necessarily exist or aren't in as much demand. And I think
instead of saying to your kids, when you go by like construction workers, hey, if you don't study, you're going to end up there. Well, it's like, yeah, they should end up there because the construction workers, the good one, the contractors in everybody's
it's a
community,
viable career.
100%.
They're making more than your liberal arts kids are, and your liberal arts kids are straddled in debt. So don't say, hey, if you don't go to school, you're going to end up there. You probably should try to end up there because you can run a really profitable business in those lines of work right now.
That's a great point, Byron. You ever meet like a history major or someone like that? Then they go bartend for 4 years after college, and then they get a master's degree in occupational therapy. Well, it's like, what are we even talking about here? I mean, they have to go back to school to be able to contribute to the workforce. And I think you really need to be mindful of that as a parent if you're guiding folks. I think that's important. Lisa, you got kids in college. Are you having these conversations with your girls?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We hit a nerve here.
Oh my gosh. My oldest is studying, I think at current astrophysics. She is, as we speak, she is in Uzbekistan so her semester abroad was in Kazakhstan. And then they did a 10-day stint over into Uzbekistan. Ask me why. Because
never heard of it. So I'll ask you why. I never even heard of Uzbekistan.
My kid has decided she really wants to be an astronaut, and that in order to live on the International Space Station, she needs to be fluent in Russian. So she started taking Russian in school and then decided to do her study abroad in Kazakhstan, where they speak Russian. And so she'll do that, and she wraps that up in a couple of weeks, and then she's heading to Geneva to do her summer internship at the CERN. And all I keep saying is, make sure you can get a job.
So there's 47 active astronauts in the astronaut corps right now with NASA. This is according to Google. There's 12 management astronauts and 332 former astronauts or payload specialists. So I would. But share how many is stats with her?
How many are Elon hiring? So that's the next question. Lisa, when you buy a condo in Russia, I expect an invite. Everybody always asks me, how come you never leave this continent? Well, when Lisa buys a condo in Russia, I'll come visit. Okay.
It's
hanging
nutty.
out in Moscow, drinking some vodka.
Nutty. Yeah. Well, what I was going to add in that, one of the interesting things, I've been working with some really great folks on some consulting stuff through BAM, and we've been kind of looking at making a hire.
That's supposed to be a secret, Lisa, but go ahead.
Oh, well.
Blew it.
Get on the waiting list. We'll secretly drop the link down below.
And you can secretly come to the workshop in Boston if you want to see what it's about.
Well, no, that's public. You can come to the workshop, but go ahead, Lisa.
Or you can just edit that out. Totally fine. Anyway.
No, we'll keep it in. It's a good little tease.
We don't edit
one of the things that we've been working on is hiring and developing like an apprentice type of model. And it's a really cool thing because when you get kids coming out of high school, right, they're too young to really sell successfully. But we have so many trades where people can start earning a really great income without having to have a college education. We've got an apprentice program here in our company where 18-year-old kids get a base salary of $40,000 a year and monthly bonuses that we're paying out at, $1,800 a month. And so, they'll do this for a couple of years, learn all the skills to hunt and to fish and to, really become a great salesperson. And then when they've got a little bit more business maturity, they'll get a license and switch into being a real estate agent, which is a 40-hour class that costs a couple $100 versus a 4-year, $400,000 degree. And look, I out-earn most of
they're earning an income while they learn, and
right.
And they're not, getting more debt. So, not getting any debt because they're earning
Right.
an income. So it's the opposite.
100%. They'll finish 4 years later, they'll be in a remarkably better place than their peers who are taking on, my daughter's my youngest one is at Tufts. I think we crossed 6 figures per year for next year. I think when we just got the bill, I think it's like $102,000 for next year, if my memory's correct.
Jesus.
It's bananas.
Right, so I think we've hammered jobs enough. Here's the punchline. Unless labor breaks, which I'm not rooting for labor to break, but unless it does, as Logan told us right here on Knowledge Brokers Pod, we're not going to see the Fed have much motivation to bring the federal rates down, and it's going to be hard to get that 10-year to move down. So, elevated high 6 rates seem like they're sticking for the time being. And that's just kind of where we're at.
I think we're good on our over under for the year too.
Yeah. Great.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an important point. This is an important point for the knowledge brokers out there, because Jerome Powell's not going to save you. The economy's not going to save you. And especially for the folks in the Northeast, and I would defer to the seasonality in your market. These next 60 days are so critical. You look at what happens in the Northeast. Typically, most of the people enter the market, they do, between March and, end of July, they want to make a real estate decision. They got schools and different things happening. And if you're listening to this right now and you're hearing what's going on, the economic conditions aren't changing, you've got one thing you want to focus on. I wouldn't be implementing anything new. I wouldn't be looking for some shiny new object. I would be focusing on how many people can I talk to daily? How can I stuff my pipeline like a Chipotle burrito with the food falling out where you get all the toppings? You've seen those people order those. You know what I'm talking about. And it's all about nurturing clients, meeting people, writing agreements, educating consumers, and having high volume conversations. If you're focused on anything else these next 60 days, you're missing the mark. And it's going to be very difficult for you to rebound in the second half of the year, given the seasonal flow that we really haven't seen for the past 5 years. So I would be very cognizant of that, because there's still people buying and selling every day. And certainly transactions are down, but this has got to be the mindset of the people that are listening to the podcast right now. Are you guys telling your agents the same thing?
I mean, listen, it's not, are we telling them the same thing? It's the thing that you should be in the middle of when you're a salesperson is having conversations. Conversations are going to equal the conversion. So it's the thing. You're in the middle of it all the time, no matter what we have a local radio show in Connecticut, and, I'm going over the numbers of the market. Closings year over year are down 3.7% on single family homes. Closings are down. Okay. That's also what we're seeing nationally. The number's just a little bit higher. Yet our numbers for the team are exponentially higher than they were last year. Why? When we made a real commitment in June of 2024, when the August settlement news came out, to go and revamp the training. Some of the stuff that we just did that role play inside of BAMX on school and inside of BAMX, that's the kind of stuff every day that we're just doing with the team right now. And I'm doing it. I'm leading it. Because if you've got the right information, the right things to say, you're bringing the right information to customers, the momentum behind having more conversations becomes a lot easier. And this is a momentum business. Sales is a momentum business, right? You can get your momentum going in the wrong direction very quickly. You can start blaming the market, blaming the agents, blaming the rules, blaming the new forms, and your momentum just goes sideways or backwards, and you end up coming into the office or not coming to the office and doing nothing. And we see that with agents all the time. In the month of April, there was 1,800 single family home sales in the state of Connecticut. There's over 20,000 agents. Okay. We had a whole bunch of them, but our momentum's heading in the right direction. Feeling confident with the training, feeling confident with bringing the right information to customers, and that relates into momentum and conversations. And so you're always working on how to increase conversations. Agents, past clients don't exist. Unless, of course, you're retiring in 2025, then consider your clients in the past. But if you're building a business for the future, your clients are your clients. This is where Mosaic comes in, the client experience operating platform for you to manage the client experience. See, cupcakes are cute, it's a nice thing to do, but it won't keep a client tied to you for life. It's not gonna bring the value to their home living, home ownership experience for years to come. CRMs work for lead generation, lead capture, and lead communication, while Mosaic helps you transform how you manage those relationships moving forward with the value that they actually need in their home ownership lifespan. So don't wait, check out mosaic.io or find the link down below.
But the role play we did, one of the most effective things, Byron, and we're actually like, this is why you got to show up to these things, because I got something out of this, and I was with Byron where he said, this was really smart, Lisa. Hey, here's the active inventory pre-pandemic, and here's the active inventory now. And you're showing what those numbers are like, and you're using historical data to educate people on the local level. Byron, that was one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten, because it's so smart. I want you to walk through exactly how you did it, because I thought it was one of the most intelligent things I've heard all year long when it comes to objection handling.
I think for a buyer, it's specifically not, don't speak it into a percentage. Hey, there's 100%, there's 100% more homes on the market right now in Southwest Florida than there was in 2019. Okay, I don't know what that even means. 100% more homes, as opposed to like your town, that zip code that buyer is looking in. You know, if you're in, this is how it's working in Connecticut right now, or the North, a lot of the Northeast areas is, hey, in this little town, there are 11 single family homes actively on the market that we can look at. And in 2019, in April of 2019, there was 72. That opens up a buyer's eyes. Whoa, I can't risk trying to come in low on this offer. There's only 10 other options. We've looked at them. Only 2 of them I would even consider. Really, this is the only 1 out of 11. I've got to come in with my best. If there's 72 homes available, maybe there's 15 I like, I can be more selective. I can go offer to offer, and you got more negotiating power. Now, it's just reverse conversation. Use the number. If you're in Austin, Texas, it's higher inventory. I'm just going to make numbers up. Hey, April of 2025, there's 5 in this neighborhood. We're looking at whatever. There's 500 options available. In April of 2019, there was only 75. Okay, so the market's flipped in that direction. So listen, what does that mean from a buyer perspective? We have more options. I have a process and a framework to help you only look at the options that are relevant to your search. We'll go through that. But now we've got the ability to fire out more offers and move from offer to offer to offer. You know, if I'm on the buy side, if I'm on the list side in Austin, like, hey, you just look at those 2 numbers. Don't speak in percentages, speak in numbers, and they'll get what you're saying. It'll become a lot more clear on what those supply and demand factors are. Real estate's really, it's supply and demand, and it's interest rate sensitive. Those are the things you got to deal with, but use the numbers to help them realize how big of a gap there might be right now.
I think it's also the actual cost of the homes for somebody who feels like things are too expensive, or, you know, that they want to wait for, you know, interest rates to come down or whatever. We ran the numbers here in the office for Massachusetts. The average homeowner gained $450,000 in home value between 2018 and today. Like, that's
incredible.
Crazy numbers. Like, think about that. Like, if you didn't buy then, it's going to cost you $450,000 more for the same house.
2019 is a fascinating kind of year to just go back to, because every market had roughly 5 to 7 years of true recovery by 2019. We were kind of operating throughout the country on a fairly neutral market, and everything has changed 2020 to today. You know, the printed 80% of US currency since that time. So much has changed since 2020. So comparing to 2019 puts things into perspective pretty quickly for consumers.
Totally.
It's a smart comparison. This is why you got to practice, though. So many agents, they ignore the script practice, right? Byron and I are still practicing. You're practicing, Lisa. I mean, I've been doing this 25 years and I'm practicing every day. And this is why you're able to sell homes at a high level. So you guys were talking about, go ahead.
Just on that note, I remember Sharon said something to me like in, when he was building up Real, which, whatever, 20 something thousand agents, something like that. If I don't know what to say better than every single one of my agents, what authority do I have in training it? And I'm paraphrasing it, but that's exactly right. If I can't do it the best, if I'm not the best at it, if I don't know this stuff inside and out, what authority do I have in training it? It's why, like, you see all these quote unquote gurus or coaches on, different platforms saying that they can help, advisors for different companies saying that they can help you run your business. And it's like, with what background? I'm not going to go to community college and ask the professor to help me figure out my real estate business. I'm going to ask Lisa Chinatti. I'm going to ask Tom Toole. I'm going to ask Gary Ashton. I'm going to ask the people that have been doing it, who have been through the landmines. I want to avoid it by asking somebody who's got some scars, not some pontificator. And so you got to know this stuff inside and out.
There was a post in the school, the BAM school community. It was somebody asked, do you role play? And my response was, do you wear underwear? Yes, of course we role play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like this, listen, this pod is a big role play, like from just talking through what's going on. That's one of the values of doing this pod with you guys. It's like we're staying sharp on all of this information. If you're listening to the pod right now, it's I listen to information the same way that you're listening to this right now, to stay sharp, to recite it in my brain, to I want to be relevant every single week. I don't want to, I know agents, and agents in your market. If, those of you listening, agents in your market who have been saying the same couple of lines, the same crap since 1999. We're about to talk about the 80s and the 90s here when we get to this new physical book. But
I can't wait.
Agents in your market who have been just touting the same information. And because they took a 60, 75, 40-hour course to get their license, and they've done a couple hundred deals, they think the business is they just know it inside and out. It evolves, it changes. Business is constant change. So, I just think you got to change with it. You got to stay sharp.
Then there's the other people that they do like 10 deals, right? They're brand new agents. And they become know-it-alls and they're all of a sudden the experts. And then you see the way they communicate with clients, and they're literally talking to them like children. Yeah. I mean, it's, 1000% yes. And like a bunch of emojis. Like I would never send a text message like that to a client ever, because I'm a professional, and they get way too casual. Then they ad-lib the scripts, and they stop learning, right? The ego takes over. And for everyone listening, don't fall into that trap. You want to look at the practitioners that have been around forever. They're the people that are constantly getting better, like Byron's talking about. And it's like, that's who wins. Sharon's absolutely right. He's the one who came up with the know-it-all. I mean, it's the worst agent out there. I think, they just think they know everything. They win on personality, and then they don't have any skills or anything to back it up. And when stuff gets hard, they just give up. And that's you're not helping people that way.
Every time I'm around somebody who's like the leading, production team or whatever the case may be, a high level producer in our business, they're always asking a bunch of questions. How you doing this? How you doing that? They're always trying to learn. And so it always baffles me when somebody who's just like, man, you've done 10 deals in your little calm down. I mean, until you get up over 100 in your market that you're trying, you haven't done anything. You can only pull up to 20% on any given year out of your previous transactions. In terms of, those are the numbers for somebody really good. So if you got 100, level, maybe you got 20 coming in. That's an elite level. I mean, you did 20 in 1 year. Repeat that for 5 years straight. Then come talk to me.
Speaking of ridiculous numbers and ridiculous takes, I know we're going to talk about this Compass book, but first, there was this New York Times podcast. Jared James, I thought, did a really nice reel about this. When you look at this podcast, it was, I read through it. It was featuring Times reporter Deborah Kamen, and it was called like the Great Real Estate Workaround. She said about the NAR settlement, the expectations were sky high. The words were being used by economists and analysts in the industry were earth shattering, watershed, landmark, greatest change of real estate industry since the New Deal. And she calls it the workaround. She said the settlement was designed to take away these conversations that agents were having about commissions. These conversations were happening over MLS, and the key focus of the settlement was that should be no more. Moving forward, post-settlement, the rules say that the sellers pay their own agents, buyers pay their own agents. If you work with a real estate agent, it's up to you to pay them. That was what was supposed to happen. I mean, these comments are just factually inaccurate. I don't need to go through the whole thing. And NAR pushed back. I mean, what do you two think about this? I don't know how the New York Times is putting something like this out there that's that wrong.
I mean, this is clearly I'm not going to call this person from the New York Times a journalist. I think we've seen, unfortunately, journalism in our country, kind of just be downgraded to Inquirer style of reporting.
TMZ.
And
Yes.
TMZ. I mean, TMZ
That was a flashback.
TMZ has better journalists than the New York Times. New York Times is a complete shit rag. And so, I mean, if you listen to the podcast, and Jared said this on his clip, they don't even say Realtor correctly. They go Realtor the whole time. So they're a bunch of idiots. There's a comment on this podcast from Kevin from Atlanta, who's not, there's a lot of comments on the podcast from Realtors, but there's comments from a lot of comments from the public. Okay. And this guy, Kevin from Atlanta, refers to some of the Realtor comments. He says, the comments below from Realtors is dead on. I'm a huge fan of the Daily. I feel sorry for you, Kevin, but this segment was so one-sided and misrepresented the outcome of the settlement. First off, value with both sellers and buyers is solid and negotiable. And, just kind of goes on to stick up for agents. Other ones, this episode was poorly researched. You got a lot of people who are agents. This is the second time, Dan Nelson says, this is the second time this podcast has decided to call Realtors Goliath. Very few Realtors make a livable wage. So somebody from the public defending Realtors. However, it's a rare opportunity for single mothers and people without a college degree to be able to support their family just by being great at their job. I wish the Daily had spent just a little time trying to understand the life of an average Realtor instead of paying the bulk of the interview on a guy who purported to have a terrible time not selling his $1.7 million home, because they're talking about Realtors Hate Me, the for sale by owner guy. This regular and constant assault by the Daily on Realtors is disgusting. Listen, you know what? New York Times, keep doing it. Keep the constant assault on agents going. How did that work out for, let's just face it, New York Times, how'd that work out for your favorite liberal Democrat politicians? When you guys continued to attack one side over and over and over again, at times with fake stories, how'd it work out for you in the 2024 election? Listen, attack Realtors, go for it, because I think it'll work out for us, because eventually, like what happened in politics, the same thing's going to happen, and it's happening right now in the comment section. The public's going to say, you know what? This is so one-sided. This is so crazy. Like, I had a great experience with my agent. I got a professional who helps me with connections to vendors and contractors and people in the community. They're hardworking men. They're hardworking women. They're out there trying to, keep the economy and the housing market in my community moving. And without them, I couldn't have gotten the deal. Or without them, I would have had to do all the work, and I don't want to do all the work for a few points. So it's not only inaccurate, it's so biased, because they're still paying off their college degree. They're so far politically unhinged, New York Times. It's insane. and this fits their agenda. So keep doing it. It'll work out to our benefit in the long run, because Americans always wake up and say, you know what? You're the one that's insane.
Well, and I do agree with your take. And
I'm
this is
sorry. Byron went on a tirade and it was funny. If you weren't watching on YouTube, you kind of have to go, because when Byron goes on a tirade, Byron, your face goes like this.
Like I'm just, I want to be, because I really, if they were staying, I'd be doing that. I'd be like, what is wrong with you guys?
Well, and what I'll say about this, and I think
up.
Lisa's got something here to share that she may want to talk about a little bit, and it's that when this stuff happens, you see these things happen in business all the time, where one side gets like publicly attacked and they spew out 100% garbage information, factually inaccurate things constantly. And you know what happens, Byron? The truth always comes out. It is so clear that this stuff happens in business constantly. I mean, it's happened to me within our marketplace. People say these wild things about me, and I'm like, well, what are we talking about here? When did any of this happen? And then you know what happens? The truth always comes out. So I applaud you for what you're talking about here, because I know what I do to help my clients. I'm personally in the trenches. I'm in the arena every single day. I've had sellers get approached by buyers because the seller turned down their offer. The buyer writes a letter about how I screwed everything up, drops it in their mailbox, and the seller calls me and says, hey, thanks for representing me the right way. I really appreciate it. This buyer's out of their mind. We're never selling our house to them. So when these things come out that are just 100% inaccurate, the truth always comes out. People can't go through life lying and cheating in a professional environment that's governed by contracts. Lisa, your thoughts?
100% agree. And I think what I will add is I do think that there is still some opportunity for NAR to stand up and do the right thing across the board. I think that there is still some stuff happening behind the scenes that
don't hold your breath on that one, but
no doubt. But I think that they need to be a far more transparent organization. I think that they need to work more for all of their members as opposed to just some of their members. And I think that they've
good old boys club, good old girls club, been saying it for a long time. Very cliquey. Agree. Go ahead.
Without a doubt. And I think that, over the next couple of months, we will definitely start to see more of that kind of stuff coming out, but always. And I don't know. It's slanderous stuff gets spewed when one party has an agenda.
NAR is running their shop, like the political example that I gave you. Okay. Why do members not have the trust in NAR? Well, because NAR is running the same playbook that got the presidential nominee on the losing side of the ticket. Like everybody now, you hear all these. I mean, it's awesome to listen to this stuff. You hear all these Democrat campaign advisors like, this went wrong, that went wrong. Like, so you could see it. You knew you weren't being transparent, speaking to citizens on a transparent level. NAR does the same thing. And then on the background to what Lisa's talking about, I'll say it more clearly. If you're in the club, they give you special treatment. If you're in the club, NAR will protect you, even if you're doing wrong, even if you're unethical. And listen, that's the same thing that got exposed. It'll get exposed here. It's what New York Times has no credibility anymore. That's why I'm not even going to dispute all of this stuff in here. They've already shown their cards. They have no credibility. They're one side leaning. And NAR's one side leaning too. The people that do what they say right now, not Robert Refkin, we're going to get to him. The people who follow and obey NAR are the ones that they'll protect. The other ones, they'll give you one word email answers back like, not my domain. I'm not worried. They'll try to drag you out and bleed you out. That's NAR's game right now, and they're losing credibility because of it.
Agreed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that use this strategy in business.
More to come on all of that stuff.
They think that they can just say whatever they want, and there's no consequences. You talked about doing, there's a thing called integrity in business right now that is severely lacking, and I would encourage everyone listening, just do the right thing. Doing the right thing's always the right thing. It's very simple. And when you approach your business like that, you can be in the business a quarter of a decade. Or a quarter of a century, excuse me. It's very easy to, a quarter of a decade is 2.5 years. Most realtors fail by then. But I mean, you can,
the average realtor tenure.
Yeah. Club 13. That's what we're talking about here. So, but if you want to have a long run in this business, just do the right thing. Help people. Have some integrity about yourself instead of what most people in this business end up doing. And that's why we get a bad rap as real estate agents, because of the 87% that fail. So you talked about Refkin. I want to talk about this. So we've got this, this article came out yesterday, got sent to us by somebody. Byron, I'll let you kind of detail that. It got sent to Byron, not me.
I mean, I didn't get permission to. I actually don't think this CEO of a major brokerage would mind if I said.
Yeah, we're not going to do it.
Their name, but I'm not going to say, because I didn't actually ask. I actually think he would say go for it, but I'm just not going to do it because I didn't get
it's the right thing to do. Wow, just what we were talking about. Amazing. It's funny how that stuff works.
Yeah.
So it's a Compass project. Compass is calling the project Compass Private Exclusive Book, and they are launching this in May. And it's a curated collection of Compass private exclusives available for viewing in Compass offices. Agents will, from all brokerages, are invited to visit any Compass office to individually browse private exclusives on a one-to-one basis. And they're going to have a digital copy of this. I don't know if there's an actual book, but you have to, come into the offices. It's like the MLS book.
Yeah, there's a physical book, which will be updated weekly. The digital copy will be updated daily.
And, this harkens me back to my days as a child, sitting in my dad's real estate office, because they had one of these books. These things were like phone books. I mean, only bigger, and they had all the listings in there. This is something that happened in the 80s and 90s. I remember when the MLS got like photos for the first time on on the internet. It was like a big deal. For a company that touts tech, I find this very interesting that they're going to an MLS book, and it's clear to me, and then I want to hear what you guys think, that Robert Refkin does not give a about anything and is just pushing this as hard as possible. I give him credit. Here's
the thing.
His what's on the table? You said that last week.
We can show the text message because it doesn't have the executive's name that texted me this. Texted me the photo of the article that was published yesterday. Compass debuts physical in-office book of private listings. The CEO says, you got to make a video about this. The tech company is printing books. I respond with, the 80s were indeed a great decade. Like, guys, late 80s, early 90s, I have fond memories of those times. Like, I so wish when the NFL season kicks off this fall that Lawrence Taylor could come back and play for the Giants. I know Abdul Carter thinks he's the next Lawrence Taylor, but he hasn't done enough blow or had enough sacks to even be close to LT, baby. LT's the greatest of all time. And so, listen, I wish LT was coming back. He's not coming back. Like, this book isn't going to have any steam. This physical book is one of two things is true. Robert Refkin has become the Elon Musk of our industry, and this is a troll move that is like, he is levels beyond everybody's thinking. He is trolling Inman for even writing this article. Like, did they even do any due diligence? Hey, are you really going to do this? Like, is this a plan that you're going to do and commit to all the way? This is meme style Elon Musk trolling from Robert Refkin. I think he knows that it's going to create conversation. They say they're a tech company. I've always said, and listen, I just put out a clip, Compass friends. Like, you got to be fair with me. I said I've got no problem with somebody doing a legal business model. Okay, so I've got no problem with the business model. You got to be fair. Just because you don't like everything I say, a lot of brokerages don't like everything that I say. My own broker doesn't like everything I say.
Yeah, I don't think 70% likes what I say sometimes. So
maybe 70% of what I say. So you got to be fair with me, Compass. And one thing I've been consistent on, Compass is not a tech company. Their ceiling is Sotheby's 2.0. I've said this for years. Okay. And if the physical book, if number 2 is true, that the physical book is actually part of their plan, I don't believe it. I think it's a troll move. Okay.
It's ridiculous.
But if number 2 is true, then that just undresses them as, nope, we're not a tech company. We're going backwards into the 80s. It's a troll move, guys. This is silly. They're trying to trap us. This cannot be a real thing.
I mean, it's like
is
going
the book
to the
same
library.
as a sign in a yard?
Yeah, I mean, this is nuts.
No, it's useless. A book? Who's driving to an office? This is the thing.
We can't even get real estate agents to go to their own office, okay? Like, most of them will not come to their own office after they move to a brokerage and say it's closer to my house, and they never show up. They're not going to go to a Compass office.
But does the consumer
go to an office to flip through a book? Do you have a link? I mean, consumers are going to think you've lost your mind.
We have an office,
but when they're desperate enough, right? Like look, we are a tight inventory market. I submitted an offer this week that I told you guys earlier, it was a high priced offer on a high priced home in a very desirable area, over $5 million. There were 14 offers, because there's no other inventory. Right.
Lisa, I don't want to get on a phone call with people unless they tell me exactly what we're talking about. You know, like somebody sends me an email right now. Hey, we're going to be in the same place at a conference. Let's get on a call. I'd like to talk to you about, being at the same. I'm like, hello, what do you want to talk about? Like, what is the purpose?
I want to pick your brain. You ever get the
email me back what the purpose of the call is? Like, if he said drive to my office and talk to me about, like, we're going to be at the same, like, wait a minute. No,
I get it from your perspective. I get it from your perspective. But if you think, I'm going to be devil's advocate, if you think about consumers who are desperate to find a home in a tight inventory market, if you're not willing to do it, the consumer's going to do it themselves. How many times have you had a buyer call the listing agent when they didn't like the advice or the answer that you gave them? It happens.
So I agree with you that stuff does happen. What I also know is we've had offices on like Realtor Row or like major roadways, and we would get walk-in traffic every now and then. That stopped about 10 years ago. And
because you could find everything online. And if you can't find it online, I'm devil's advocate on this side. Now, does it happen? I don't know. But could it? I don't think necessarily that the target is the agent. I think that the target is the consumer. Right? Because most agents are going to do what you just said.
Yeah, I think they want to get agents into their office to recruit them. I mean,
I think they want both.
That to me is what's okay. Fair enough. I mean, I think they want to double end all their deals. So that would.
I don't think this is a real strategy. I think this is complete smoke signal. They're going to put, if Compass exclusive is the right thing for a consumer, it's going to go on Compass exclusive, compass.com as an exclusive. It's going to go on the public site. Being in a book on a shelf in some office in Miami. What are we talking about?
Well, but if it's just to circumvent all the coming soon stuff, right? That's why I said, is it going to police the same way as a sign in the ground? Right, I don't know.
I'm like you guys. I've got a hard stop. I've got a hard stop here. I'm gonna be late.
I think his blood pressure went up, and his doctor said
he's bright red. He's like matching your shirt.
Yep. Did I get fired up today a little bit?
Yeah.
This was a fiery pod. I like it. It's some good energy here. And that's why you got to come to Boston to see what it's like to actually meet Byron in person. We almost had a meltdown today on our accountability call. Lisa, I don't know if you want to share this, where his phone stopped working and he goes, my effing phone. And I was like, we just stopped talking. We're waiting for the meltdown. So
come to Boston. I do actually have to go.
This has been a thing for weeks. All right. Bye.
All right. See you guys next week.
See you guys in Boston.